Now we're going to queer up education. Safe Schools fights for LGBTQ+ History Month in Miami-Dade, but loses. The organization Safe Schools works to create safer schools where all students can learn and thrive regardless of real or perceived sexual orientation, gender identity, or gender expression, their own or that of their parents or guardians. This week, the Miami-Dade School Board considered a motion to recognize October LGBTQ+ History Month. Safe Schools spoke at the board meeting to argue for the inclusion of the recognition of LGBTQ+ History Month. What was near unanimous approval up to 2021 has now failed again for the second year. Afterwards, members of Safe Schools discussed what happened in their most recent episode of Safe Schools Rainbow Roundtable.
Students and teachers react to Miami-Dade School Board voting no on LGBTQ+ History Month. This week, the Miami-Dade County School Board had a combative meeting to decide if one of America's largest school districts would continue the annual October LGBTQ+ History Month program. The packed meeting had many outside the hall watching the proceedings. In previous years, the school board had near unanimous support for the vital education, diversity, and inclusion event. But this year, the school board meeting met significant political opposition, like what we are witnessing around Florida and some conservative areas around the country. Board member Lucia Baez-Geller sponsored a proposal to recognize October as LGBTQ+ History Month. What was clear is that the Miami-Dade County School Board has a different interest in diversity and inclusion. The school board attorney cleared the proposal as legal. After extensive speakers and board debate, the school board voted 5-3 to not have the annual event next month. The board members who voted no claimed they were concerned it would violate the parental rights in education law. These were Chairwoman Mary Tere Rojas, Vice Chair Danny Espino, Roberto Alonso, Mary Blanco, and Monica Colucci. LGBTQ+ organizations like Equality Florida and PRISM were present. Safe Schools Executive Director Scott Galvin and Board Member Chairman Tom Lander both passionately spoke. Watch this.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Scott Galvin. I am the Executive Director of Safe Schools South Florida, and I'm also on the North Miami City Commission. I've been there for 25 years. As such, I am the longest-serving openly LGBTQ legislator in the state of Florida. So I'm here today, a lot of conversation that I've heard, it's made me feel very disconcerted, and it's made me want to strike out with mean things and bad language. But a lot of the people who have spoken before me have already said those hurtful things. So I'll just say that...
The clock is not working, Mr. Superintendent, sir. One moment, please. Mr. Superintendent, please. The clock. It's on. All right, go ahead.
The clock is running, though,
Yes.
because the youth that I'm going to step aside for to let them speak and cede my time to, they are gay, and they're still going to be here even after we leave this room. This item is to talk about contributions of LGBTQ people in history. We can't erase what they've done. You can't erase what my generation has done and stood for. You will not erase our students. Please find it in your conscience to vote yes on H11. Thank you.
The law requires teachers to teach the Florida state standard curriculum. They might have changed it. That's required. That is the curriculum that teachers teach during every month. Honest teachers teach hard history, brave literature, excellent drama, great science. But my question is, some teachers are afraid to do that today, and some are leaving the classroom. But what happens when a student then chooses a topic to give a PowerPoint on? What if they decide to write an essay that gets read to the class? What if they do a public speech will they be chastised now by their teachers that that's inappropriate even during this month? What do we do with the life of James Baldwin, the author? Because you can't understand his writing without knowing who he is. Or Alvin Ailey, choreographer. Barbara Jordan, the first African-American elected to Texas Congress from her state. Alan Turing, the computer scientist. King James, who got the Bible written. Pretty well known that he also had an alternative lifestyle. Sir Francis Bacon, scientific method. Leonardo da Vinci lived as an openly gay man. Astronaut Sally Ride. In government, do we talk about the civil rights laws? Do we teach true African American history? Or do we do falsehoods and try to play both sides? In psychology, I grew up thinking that I had a mental problem, because it wasn't until 1973, the year I graduated, that homosexuality was not considered a mental illness. What are we teaching our students? I'm not mentally ill. I am crazy. Everybody can certify that. But I taught for 40 years. I showed love to my students, and I spoke truth to power.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Our next speaker.
At Safe Schools, we are so proud of the leadership that we have, and the fact that both Scott and Tom really spoke their heart out and spoke truth to power is something that is not only incredible, but that I know many, many other queer kids around Miami-Dade County and those that are following this around the world are really paying attention to right now.
So let me give you some context. So this is I believe, the second time they have voted this down. They voted it down last year as well. The previous year, it did pass. However, the difference here is the change in makeup when it comes to the politicians who sit on the school board. You may remember the makeup changed drastically after the last election, where the governor endorsed two of the current school board members that are now sitting there,
Right.
and two additional ones he appointed because of vacancies on the board, which means that you have 4 solid conservative members on the school board, and then 4 typically liberal-leaning school board members. So the thought was that this time around, maybe we could see the chair, Maritere Rojas, swing one way or the other. She chose once again to swing to the more conservative side. As you know, she is related to Congressman Carlos Jimenez, for those who don't know out there. So there is that alliance there, if you will, if you want to argue in terms of politics.
Yeah, and she made a whole speech of that voting no does not mean that she's voting or they're voting against LGBTQ plus people. But the truth is that yes, it doesn't mean that, but it does mean that for the kids that are looking at you, for the future generations that will look back at this time and be like, what were you voting for? Because I feel like what they have done is they have turned our LGBTQ plus kids into a political tool and are only utilizing politics instead of like looking at these kids as a whole, looking at queer people as a whole, and allowing for the recognition that we are here, that we exist. Just as Scott said, we will be here after this vote. We're not going anywhere. They're not going anywhere. So what is really going on? Like what is really going on behind all of this conversation?
And just to be clear, this was just a vote to recognize LGBTQ month. It was not going to change any sort of lesson plan.
History Month.
History Month, yes. Sorry. It wasn't going to change any sort of lesson plan. Teachers were not going to be told to switch out anything that they had already previously said they were going to teach. It was only to recognize gay people exist, they will continue to exist, and they have existed, and we should recognize it.
Yeah.
So the misinformation that came in, that a lot of people went into this meeting spewing, really influenced, and it's unfortunate that the chairwoman couldn't, it's not a vote against it, but you're basically telling your high school, your students that are gay in your district that, I don't want to recognize that you're there, you exist.
There's 2 things. One, the school board used to approve it, yes. What teaching about LGBTQ History Month was, they put out a memo saying these are 30 LGBTQ queer heroes, and you do what you want with them. You ignore it, or you incorporate it in your classroom, or you put it school-wide. You do something. That was it. It wasn't like we're going to stop what we're doing and we're going to teach about gay history and gay that. So it's like this person. It's just the same thing we do with Latin American history, or Hispanic history, and African American history. We highlight people who belong to that community, and that was it. That was all that was done. As a teacher, we would get the list and we could just put it up there, and that would be all you have to do. Just put it up on your board. And if you wanted to do a research paper, extra credit, or something, you could do that. The second thing is, by voting no, you can't be an ally and vote against the community.
Right.
So yes, she may say that voting no doesn't mean we don't support, but that's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
If you are voting against us, you're hurting your students, you're hurting our kids, you're hurting our community. And so that logic of, it doesn't mean that I don't accept you. No, that's exactly what it means.
Yeah, they're just trying to still seem approachable by those. It's like a vote.
Right.
Like you're just trying to seem as neutral as possible, but really, like, your actions are showing your true colors. And so it's like, if that's how it is, might as well just, like,
Just say it.
just say it.
Yeah.
Let's address the elephant in the room. Like, you really don't care. And you can't keep saying that I do care, but I just can't support you. It's like, then you don't care.
Yeah, they don't care.
Yeah.
Then you don't really care.
And a very, what I found very problematic about that school board meeting was the amount of Christian rhetoric that was shown. And I have a hard time saying Christian rhetoric because I myself, I'm a Christian, I'm a pastor, and that's not me. That's not who I am. That's not the church that I have, and the church that I belong to. And I know many other Christians that don't feel that way. But these people came up there, started talking about Jesus, the Bible. I mean, some guy even started talking about Sodom and Gomorrah, and I'm like, these are just biblically illiterate people that are hiding behind the Bible to push their hatred, to push their own false beliefs, and it's just it was very disheartening to see that happen. And the fact that the people that were against this were all spouting some crazy Christian belief. They were all spouting some part of the Bible. They were all talking about Jesus. They were talking about the country and freedom and Jesus and guns and Jesus and all these other things and Jesus. And I'm like, Jesus would not have been here voting for these things right now.
And the other thing that baffles me is that they talk about how introducing just this month to recognize is indoctrinating our kids and teaching our kids. And if you talk to your kids about being gay, that means they're going to be gay, like all this. And yet they're trying to put PragerU in our school system, in our school, like being taught to our kids. Are you seriously telling me that the ultra right-wing PragerU is not going to indoctrinate our kids when they're minimizing things such as slavery? And, so like if we really want to talk about indoctrination, it's coming from them. It's not coming from us.
Yes,
we just want to recognize gay people exist, and they're going to continue to exist.
I didn't have gay history, and guess what? I'm gay.
They just disappear. We're not talking about it.
And when you read signs, they had this huge sign outside that says, when it's time to bring the Bible and prayer back into the schools, it's like, that is indoctrination. You are literally indoctrinating kids by bringing your form of Christianity, your flavor of Christianity, your specific way of being Christian into the schools. Where that doesn't belong.
Because we have many faiths represented in our public schools, so why are we pushing one faith? Why do you get to say, oh, my faith is better than the Muslim faith, the Jewish faith, the Buddhist faith, the atheist? Why do you get such a big voice?
Well, because most of those parents or the adults that are, again, older generation, come from a conservative background. So they're literally trying to put in as much laws and like legislations and all these rules and regulations because they're realizing that the younger generation, my generation, everyone younger than I am, they're a lot more accepting. They don't care. They see two people together that are the same sex and they're like, okay, like you love each other. That's great. They don't, it doesn't bother them. And so they can't fathom that society is turning its page. We're going to a more open, inclusive route. And so that scares them because they are not open and inclusive. And that would require them to then like do a lot of self-realization of like, oh wow, there's a lot of problems that I personally have with these people. And then guess what? The thing is that if you can't acknowledge that and you're doing all these things to hurt a specific group of people, and the more you do this, again, using the Bible as a cover story, basically, just to put like, hateful rhetoric out into the public. And then the thing is that then they say like, oh, but, I support you, but I can't, vote for you. Right. So then it's like, you just don't want to be the bad guy. And you don't want to realize that your actions are hurting a lot more people. And then people don't want to be around you. Yeah. And you're isolating yourself and they don't want that.
Yeah. Like I think about it as a parent, and like if my child were to be gay, like I'm like, it's inconceivable to me that I would ever look at them any differently. And it's like this fear that they have this like deep-seated faith, but it's such a faith that is going to just alienate everyone around them. That is not exactly how they want them to be. Like I just don't understand how we could be in the so-called quote unquote free state of Florida and they're putting all these restrictions all over everything we do and how we could think and what we're reading and what we're being taught. And it's just mind-boggling to me how far it's come, because of a fear of retaliation from our government. Right. Because let's be real, a lot of these members also voted because A, they were appointed by DeSantis, and B, even if they weren't, they don't want to go against what he's saying, So, it's really sad to see how it's gone because it was passed 2 years ago. So it's just a phenomenon that's happened just so recently where we should be more accepting, and we're becoming less and less accepting as time goes on.
Yeah, Florida has become a freer state for the few, and not for the many. And you talked about, our public schools representing many faith and many walks of life, but it's not even the fact that those children represent that rainbow of humanity. It's also our taxpayer, our taxes pay for the system. And to see one group of people trying to not just take it, but then wanting to take our money and fund private schools, it's like you can't have it both ways. Either you leave the public school system alone and you go to your private schools with our money, or you go to your own private schools. If you can afford it, sorry, too bad. That's not my problem. I don't know.
The new law that parents get to choose where their kids go. Well, and then the money follows the kids. So the money that used to go to public school now goes with the kid to whoever. And if the kid goes to private school, then that's kind of where the money goes. And the idea that it's parents' rights and parents. Well, what about your right as a parent to have your kid learn the history that you want and the lessons that you want? Why do you get excluded?
Yeah, that's exactly the point where, my husband and I talk about this, where, why are they deciding what my kid gets taught? Like, where did this power play come from where they're taking over and they're deciding what my kid, and then not only that, I'm willing to bet money that a lot of them don't even have kids in public schools. They pulled them out and put them in private schools, and they're just going there to make a stink and say all these things to fearmonger, and that affects my kid because I'm a very big supporter of public schools. My kids are in public school. They will continue to be in public schools because I believe in the public school system, and I just see it being eroded slowly by these parents that have amassed this power, and in that power they just want to be bigoted and they just want to control, and there's nothing moral about their desire to control everything our kids get taught. To me, it's actually infuriating to me to see how much power they've amassed and how much, there's nothing free about their radical interpretation of what morality and freedom is, because it's not freedom for me. It's not freedom for any of you. It's not freedom for my kids when they're being chained to being taught eventually maybe a PragerU, which, God, if I ever find out that my kids get PragerU, I'm going to raise hell, because that's where, I kind of I have to draw the line as a parent and, use my voice as a parent, and as scary as it can be, because to be what's sadly a minority voice to help the majority of the people who support the LGBTQ community, it's scary to put yourself out there because there's so much pushback and so much vitriol and so much fear mongering and intimidation that it's but if you don't do it, who's going to do it? If I don't speak up for my kids and I don't speak up for their education, who is? Yeah.
No, yeah. I think also you have people, again, we're at a point in like history where we can't just have like someone be of two different parties just have a conversation. It becomes violent. It becomes threats. Then it's like because you are for, you know, gay rights, then and you try to speak out, like as a parent speaking out. And if you don't have enough people backing you up, like you'll get singled out and you'll get death threats. You'll have people like do horrible things to you. And like that's just, it's a terrifying notion because it's like, where did the humanity go in people? Like how did we get to this point that because we don't see eye to eye, it's now violence, it's now threats, it's like basically demoralizing another person. And it's like, as an adult, that's already hard enough. Could you imagine kids that are comfortable with, you know, their sexuality and that, you know, they know like I'm gay, you know, and you have adults who will see that and be so threatened by a child and
we just need to do more of what Safe Schools motto is, which is teaching respect for all.
But I also think this all highlights the importance of local elections. And I think oftentimes, repetitively, we sort of overlook rather, the importance that they play.
Yeah.
It's not just about electing presidents, but about electing school board members, state house members, and people that you think, whether you're on the left or the right, that you agree with on what their politics should be. We forget that often.
We do.
It makes a huge difference. Your city council member makes probably more of a difference in your daily life that the president does.
Yeah, absolutely.
And as teachers, I think it's important that we teach our students how important their vote is, especially because these are kids who are graduating high school, you know, and some of them are scared to vote because they don't even know how to do it, you know, because it's their first time. But going back to LGBT, the History Month, it's sad because a lot of kids that are LGBTQ plus think they're being erased too, because I see it at school, you know.
Yeah, these kids are who had a voice are being shut down. They don't feel part of the system, part of the society, just because I don't matter anymore. You know, can I discuss about it? Can we not discuss about it? And then how do teachers navigate that? As a teacher, it's hard. As a gay teacher, it's hard because I want to be someone my kids can see as an example of, oh wow, he's there. I'm just teaching. I'm just doing my job. But I want them to know that there's representation. Representation matters. But as a teacher, can I cover these things? Can I not cover things? What's gonna, is someone going to complain? Is someone going to complain? And what will that mean for me as a teacher?
Right.
And it's so vague out there that it's scary.
I agree with Frank too, because sometimes, you're just being yourself and you might say something and you're like, there's 30 kids in your class. There might be one that it bothered them and you can get in trouble for whatever you said.
It's like that one mom in Hialeah that got like a bunch of books banned. I think it was in Hialeah Miami Lakes High School. And it wasn't that she had read the books. She just was literally copy pasting what Moms of Liberty was saying about these books. No ability to discern the information, to look, to seek out, no curiosity to see, wait a minute, this book doesn't seem, none of that. It was just like straight up like injecting them with the indoctrination and then just copying, pasting what they were saying. And it's very scary because especially in your profession where you could have just 29 kids that are totally okay with everything you're saying, but you have that one and they go to their parents. And then those are the parents that come and complain. And then
that's where they're hearing at home.
Exactly. So it's very scary, for you guys. And I feel for you, honestly, because you're extremely brave to be putting your faces and voices and making sure that kids know that they have you guys. It's difficult. And I do appreciate that. I know that at least as my kids are growing up, they're going to have teachers like you guys.
Thank you.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And I love that you're such a supportive parent. Like you kind of remind me of my sister. And that sense, because my niece and nephew, one is 6, the other one's 9. And it's funny because my sister told me and my nephew was like, do you guys know Weezer, the band?
Yeah.
There's a song that it mentions the word lesbian. And then he's like, Mom, what's a lesbian? So she's like, let me just tell him my way, because he's just turned 9. instead of him having to look up what the word is.
Exactly.
You know, it's just two people.
But that's how it begins at home. You know, when they have those questions, you answer it honestly, so they don't feel the need, you know, to seek it out elsewhere. That they have a trusted parent that they can ask these questions.
Imagine
to.
if he Googles it.
Yeah,
Exactly. That's what she's like. I'm gonna tell him right now.
Right now.
You know? She just talked about love. You know, like a boy and a boy can, you know, they can love a girl and a girl.
Part of my issue with what happened at the school board was that a lot of the people who spoke are not even from the city.
Yeah.
They came in, they got something, Moms of Liberty or whatever put out a message, or whoever put out a message out, and they came and they signed up because that's the type of
it's a public comment.
It's a public comment. Anybody can come, and then they say their comments, but there is no there's no questioning them. There's no saying, no, you're wrong, and that's misinformation, that's wrong information. They just get to speak. So then, again, they don't even belong to this district, to this county, and they're coming to
directly influence
or have kids in school.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Media literacy.
There you go.